So we've obviously experienced a pandemic that none of us have had in our lifetime. We've gone through challenges, mental challenges, challenges with emotional issues, loss of family, loss of jobs, financial issues. All these things have manifested over this last 15 months. And the most challenging part about this is when someone asks you how things going. It's usually, oh, they're okay, or surviving, getting through it, whatever it is. But a lot of people have difficulty truly expressing this impact, mental and emotional, that it's had on all of us. It's almost this fear of vulnerability. Like, think about it. When it comes to a physical issue, if you go to a doctor, if you're telling someone, hey, I got to go to a doctor for an annual checkup, you don't think anything of it, right? But how many people say, oh, well, I'm going to go to a therapist just to get kind of an annual checkup? You're concerned how that's going to get interpreted. Does that make me think weak? But through this pandemic, so many of us have faced these mental challenges, these emotional challenges that we truly haven't had the opportunity to express to one another or to someone professional. So now we've gone through this and we're bearing all that pain. Like, think about it, having a broken bone but never getting it fixed by a doctor and just living day after day on that on a leg. So one of our goals is to make people feel comfortable with truly understanding some of those obstacles and being able to speak freely to them. So what I really want to tell you today is kind of two journeys of mine, a physical experience and a mental experience, and how closely they intertwine to one another. Both very different stories, but both have a lot of connection between two of them. So I used to be a trail runner. I used to run throughout the mountains, right? A little bit better shape at the time, a little bit faster, a little bit lighter. I had a trail run up this mountain that was pretty rigorous. When I start a trail run, I always get pumped up, get shoes ready, put on some music. Got to listen to something that's just angry music, right? Something that's going to get you pumped up, whether it's rock, rap, whatever, something intense. And I do my stretches, and I look up that mountain, and I focus, and I start that run. There was a run in specific that I remember exactly when I started, how I started, because I knew what was ahead of me. Well, it was a lot like COVID. How many of you remember the first time you really, truly understood what COVID was? What was going on in your life? For me, it was at the office. We had a meeting, and we said, this is real. This is going to impact us in a serious way. And it's going to impact our team. It's going to impact people's lives. And I remember that moment because the uncertainty was so overwhelming, and what transpired from there really started to already take a toll day one. Well, within a week of that, we start going through massive restructuring efforts, massive cost cutting, and we're working around the clock. But in conjunction with that, I just found out that I was having my second kid. Now, for a lot of people, as you know, having a kid, that's a miracle, it's a blessing, and that's a time of excitement. But at this time, it was actually a time of fear. What does that mean? What happens if my wife gets COVID? What happens if something is wrong? And all these things start to manifest through my mind. And then I start to proceed down this journey of COVID. Right? Just like when I started that run, right off the bat, you face obstacles. Right? You're heading uphill, up a mountain. It's never easy. Anyone who's a runner knows that. Now you're going through switchback turns, single track trail, going over tree roots, going over stumps, rocks, coming up different obstacles that are trees are laying in the different paths. You still have ice throughout that trail. And as you start to make your way up that trail, you start to go through all this pain, suffering. Your legs start to hurt, your knees start to hurt, your lungs start to hurt. Start to get into your head physically, every aspect of your body you start to feel, your shoulders, as you're making that run up that mountain. When I was going through COVID, I had that same mental struggle. As working the 18, 19 plus hours a day, rolling out of bed at 5, 6 a.m., straight to an office, getting back at 1, 2 a.m., doing that day in, day out. Then having to know that when you're making these cuts, making these transitions, you're impacting people's lives. You're going through these stresses, putting SOPs and safety plans in place, doing all this work knowing if I make a mistake, it could cost someone's lives. On top of that, you've got your family and your friends. Oh my God, what if something happens to them? What about my family? What about my kids? What about my friends? All this starts to build, all this starts to grow. And mentally, you start to go through this battle, this uphill battle. Right? Start going through this journey, start going through this struggle. All of you guys experienced it, right? At work. Are we going to have enough supplies to get out? We got to get this project done. Are we going to be able to reopen this resort? Am I going to have a job tomorrow? Is my spouse, is my parents, or my kids, are they going to have a job? Now all of a sudden this emotional and mental uncertainty and this stress starts to perpetuate, starts to build up. And it's like running a race. Every step you take is more difficult than the last. Every mile you make becomes more stressful. So as I'm running up this mountain and I'm making my way up, my legs are starting to get fatigued and I'm moving quite fast. I'm coming around this bend and I'm just flying because at that point there was no other options. You're moving fast, you're running, you're getting to your point where you have to go. And all of a sudden, boom, I trip. Now I go out like this, like Superman, right? But unlike when I was a kid, I swear I had superpowers as a kid. That day proved they don't exist. No cape, no ability to fly, but could just eject into the air. And this wasn't like a trip where you stumble and kind of pick yourself back up. This was a flat out, land on the trail, roll down, eat it, hit a rock, just complete wipeout, right? One of those things that you wish you had on YouTube because the likes would just been unbelievable, right? So I'm laying there on the ground, got blood on both knees. I'm pretty certain I either sprained or broke my wrist. My shoulder's hurting, covered in mud, just in pain. About 6-8 months into COVID, after all this stress, all this mental stress, all these challenges, having to see the amount of people that we've had to let go, bring back, let go, starting to see all these struggles we face, starting to have the uncertainty of where the future is going to hold, where are we going with the organization, what's going to happen. I'm about to now have a kid. What is that going to look like? And is my kid going to come in this world safe? Are they going to be healthy? What if? I trip. And like some of you in this room, you have that moment that you're laying there face down. Why did I trip? So you remember earlier when I said there's 4 ways to look? As I was running or as I was going through COVID, that stress, your vision starts to go down and down and down. Ever have those days where your head is down? People ask how you're doing, oh good, but really it's not, right? Ever go through that physical journey where you just have your head down and you're just trying to make it that next step? Well, that's what happened to me. I looked down and I stayed down too long to the point I didn't see that tree root and I didn't see that obstacle that was in front of me in COVID. I thought I could survive it. I thought I would not fall, but I didn't. Now I'm down on the ground. Literally, when COVID hit and I'm 8 months into it or 7-8 months into it, about to have this baby, I'm down on the ground and I don't know what that next step is. Now, every day I made it to work, put in tons of hours. You know, wife would come bring dinner to me in my home office, work to the middle of the night. All of you guys were doing the same thing. But I'm sitting there on the ground in my room every single night. What the hell am I doing? What is going on? And mentally going through those struggles that so many people have faced in life, right? The fear because we've had friends that got affected by COVID, died, got sick. All this stuff with work, where we're going, all these stresses are happening, but now I'm down. Where do I go from here? And that became the uncertainty. So as I'm laying there on that trail, I finally took 2-3 minutes to make the decision to roll over to my side. Because what do you want to see? How did I fall? How did this happen? How did I get here? How am I face down on this ground, broken, bloody? How did this happen? I look back and see this small root. And your initial instinct is, how did that take me out? Right? I had this big tree, I had ice, I had boulders, I had a switchback. How did this take me out? COVID was the same thing. Single day, single meeting, single person that we had to then let go. how did that one incident take me out? How did that put me in this position? But it wasn't that, right? As a runner, you know your legs fatigue over time. Your body fatigues over time. It breaks down. You're not getting much of a push. You're not getting as much of a lift. So it was everything before that. That route was just that final step to put me onto the ground. But in order for me to make progress, I had to look back. I had to look back on all the obstacles that I overcame. I had to understand what got me here to this point. So I had to understand that 18 whatever hours a day, dealing with the stresses, dealing with the chaos, that is what got me here today. But in the same regards, I overcame all that. I was strong enough to make it this far. I was strong enough to get this high up the mountain. I was strong enough to get to this point through this COVID nightmare. Why can't I get further? Yeah, that trail might have been 2-3 minutes, but I'll tell you, those nights dealing with COVID and that mental and looking down was multiple weeks, if not months, of trying to get out of my own head to take that next step forward. But it took me to turn over and look back. And when I was doing that throughout COVID, one of the things that I looked back and saw was this team. Because I knew I was not the only one running this journey. I knew I was not the only person who fell flat on their face. I knew I was not the only person going through the struggle every night and day. I knew that a lot of you were. And each one of you were going through the same fight. And each one of you were continuing forward. That gave me motivation. So after you've looked down and you've fallen, you've looked back and realized how far you've come, then now you have to do something to take that next journey forward. Literally, I'm laying on that trail, I'm looking back, I'm like, how am I here? And I roll over on my back, right? Assess like, okay, I'm alive, right? I made it. I'm okay. It's not that serious. Maybe some bumps, bruises, maybe breaks, I don't know. We'll assess that later, but you look up. Now, whether you're religious, spiritual, or you're just a person that when you look up, it gives you that hope to get up. Looking up for some reason always gives you that kind of feeling and inspiration to move on. So I'm looking up, I see this beautiful sky, see these trees flying in the way, and for a moment now, everything's calm. COVID did the same thing for me. And it may not have been as quick as that trail run, but in a moment, I looked up and realized, I can do this. We were not born to be average. We were all born to be great. So why could I not take this moment, look up, and find that inspiration once again within myself to move on? So at that point, I had to make a conscious decision after you look up to get up, right? One of the biggest struggles, a lot of us hear and find inspiration, but how do we then get up and make that, manifest that into that next step? So I get up on the trail, I dust off, see blood on my legs, got to take some photos, right? Look how bad and beaten up I am. Just in case the blood washes off, I wanted to explain it was much worse than it looks, right? Same thing with COVID, right? Had to kind of mentally get myself cleared up, did a few workouts, had to do some meditation. I had to have some conversations with some individuals about where my head is, how do I go forward, right? But now, there's one last way to look, and that's forward. So, I'm sitting here on this trail, I'm looking forward, I'm cleaned up, I'm ready to go. But it's that next step that is so important. When you've gone through anything in life, when you've been beaten down, when you're down flat on your face, you finally roll over to look back to figure out how you got here. You look up for inspiration. Now you look forward, but you've got to take that first step. And it's the most difficult step in the world. There might be people all around you running. That's all great, but for you, that first step matters. And you take it. And then it's the next, and the next. And all of a sudden you start gaining momentum. And each step is critical to getting where you need to be. Because now you're looking in the right direction. You're no longer looking down. You've already seen what the past looks like and how you've gotten here. You already have the inspiration to move forward. So now you move forward. Step by step, stride by stride, to get back onto that track to where you were going. Now, there's a lot of people in this room that have either gone through something like that or is going through that. But I encourage you to understand which way you're looking. Because if we look down for too long, we will trip and fall. And who knows how long we're going to be down there for. If we spend too much time looking back, we're never going to get up. But as we turn over, as we recognize how strong of individuals we are, and we look up, we find inspiration. So find that. Get up and take that next step. Don't worry about how tall that mountain is. Don't worry about the unknown and the uncertainty. At that moment, the important thing you could do is take that step, followed by that next. I truly believe in this team. And because you're in this room, you are great. Everyone in this room is absolutely amazing. You want to be here otherwise. And you have that ability to look forward and run down that journey and to climb that mountain. And I encourage you, never sell yourself short. We all go through these physical and mental and emotional battles. And it's nothing to be fearful of. You can see how closely related the physical pain and the mental pain can coexist. Exist amongst all of us. So I want you to feel comfortable to be able to express that, to talk to people, to understand what you're going through. Because we've all been there. I've been there. I've lived there. But I promise you, if you take those steps, you can move forward and you can head in the right direction. I believe in you. Thank you.